Hi everyone, welcome to the second part in our series on redistributive wars. We're going to be looking at the right intention condition and wars against global poverty. Now, if you got any questions, you got any comments, hit up that question box because, as a philosopher, I love talking shit. In the first video in this series, we looked at the just cause condition when it comes to redistributive wars and just war theory to ask whether socially produced poverty is a just cause to go to war. And I argued that it was, because it has a strong similarity with traditional conceptions of aggression. Now, a lot of people raised their hands and said, well, this might be true, but can this be manipulated by unscrupulous politicians for other ends? There might be a just cause, but what about, the scummy world in which we live in? Now, this is an excellent point to raise, but it's also one that just war theory has thought of fairly extensively. Okay, in order to illustrate the importance of intention when it comes to just war theory, I'm going to give you a test case, the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. Try to contain yourself. I know that YouTube is just chock full of banging Franco-Prussian War videos, and this is just going to be another one, but let's just use it as an easy example, right? Okay, so the Franco-Prussian War has a huge literature behind it, and I'm going to smush down those causes into something relatively simple. So in 1868, Spain had a revolution. This led to Queen Isabella II losing the crown. An alternative candidate was proposed. It was Prince Leopold von Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen. I don't know whether I got that right. I'm not German. But this really freaked out France. Why was France so worried about Prince Leopold von Hofstadt's submarine? Well, because Prince Leopold Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen was a member of the Prussian ruling family, the Hohenzollerns. They were worried that if he took the throne of Spain, they would have Hohenzollerns to the east and Hohenzollerns to the south. This would mean that in any conflict between France and Prussia, they would have to fight on two fronts. They were worried about encirclement, which is pretty rational, wouldn't you say? This set into motion a series of events that led to French troops crossing into the territory of Prussia and her allies. It started a war. Now, on its face, it seems that Prussia has just cause, right? Self-defense is an absolutely uncontroversial part of just war theory. If you are invaded, you have the right to defend yourself. But this case is a little bit tricky. And it's tricky because we have to deal with Otto von Bismarck. Now, if you're not familiar with Otto von Bismarck, get ready for it. Bismarck is probably one of the most interesting figures in 19th century history. The Chancellor of Prussia, he presided over the unification of the state that we know as Germany today. But he was a genius, but perhaps we might say he was less than moral. While he was conducting German foreign policy, he had one singular aim: to unite all of the German states, because Germany is really fragmented in the 19th century, under the auspices of the Prussian king. They wanted Germany focused on Berlin instead of, say, Vienna. To this end, he fights several wars against Denmark, against Austria, all culminating in the Franco-Prussian War, which ends with German unification. Why should we be concerned about German unification? We should think about German unification because Bismarck provoked the war in order to get German unification. He wasn't fighting to defend Prussian territory against French aggression, even though the French were the ones who crossed the line. He did everything in his power to provoke Emperor Napoleon III into attacking Prussia and her allies. His foreign policy was described as waving a red flag at the Gallic Bull. He wanted war. He would do anything to get war. He manipulated the press for war. He did everything he could until the French felt that they had no other option but to fight Prussia in order to secure their borders. This falls foul of right intention. The right intention condition means that wars have to be fought for the right reason. They can't be fought for territorial expansion or for enrichment or for revenge. They can only be fought to restore either the status quo ante bellum or to create a more just post-war world. This is not the case when we're talking about the Franco-Prussian War. We know that Bismarck simply wanted consolidation. He didn't want to defend Germany, or rather Prussia, and her allies against France. He wanted to create a new status quo in Europe. Now, we can argue the merits of that on Realpolitik. Bismarck himself didn't care much for morality, but if we're taking that just war lens, we can say that this is an example of a war that may have a just cause, but is not fought for the right intentions, and therefore doesn't qualify as a just war. Okay, you might now be thinking to yourself, well, what does right intention matter, right? I think of what Deng Xiaoping said, the famous successor of Mao Zedong in China. He said, it doesn't matter what color your cat is so long as it catches mice. So perhaps we might say, well, it doesn't matter if you have intentions or not if the outcome is positive. Is this perhaps a Kantian hang-up in the world of just war theory? There might be something to this, but personally, I think intentions kind of do matter. We live in a world, as we've seen with Bismarck, where people can take a just cause or a legitimate grievance and manipulate it. So I think we do need to consider the intentions of actors to a certain extent. I mean, me personally, when I think about politics and philosophy, I'm more inclined to thinking about it structurally rather than with interpersonal things, but sometimes, especially when we're talking about statecraft, personalities do matter. So what does the right intention condition tell us about redistributive wars? Because that's the topic of this video, right? Well, the answer is they don't really tell us too much. They certainly don't disqualify the idea of a just redistributive war. Now, it is 100% true that in the past, domestic leaders have used war to distract from bad economics and poverty. Think about the Falklands War in the early 1980s between Great Britain and Argentina. Now, I'm not picking a side, but we can say that the generals of Argentina, who are the ruling junta, invaded the Falklands in order to distract from their rather dismal performance at home. This could be a legitimate anti-colonial war, one to restore the sort of sovereign wealth of Argentina, but it's one that's fought for the wrong reasons. But just because this war is fought for the wrong reasons doesn't mean we can't think of a redistributive war fought for the right ones. After all, think about Bismarck, that glorious bastard. He fights a defensive war for the wrong reasons. But that doesn't mean that all defensive wars are in themselves wrong. When we think about redistributive wars, just because, say, the Falklands might be fought for the wrong reasons, doesn't mean that all redistributive wars would be disqualified. Okay, end of video. Short one this week. You've got comments, leave them down below. Remember to like or subscribe or even share if you enjoy what we're doing on the channel. And I will see you in the next video, continuing our look at redistributive wars. Take care, everyone.
I love you.
Right, so in the last video, which you can watch here or fucking here, I don't know how this works. I'm an old boomer. What do you want from me? We looked at